Alright, hello stream and chat. Let's just pop this up more. Alright, let's get some stuff going.
Ads on YouTube must be so annoying. But with 3 clicks, you can install an ad blocker and you'll never see ads again. Step 1. Go to
It's not even scary.
Did you know that you're actually warned by something to not step foot on an elevator in the Hollywood Tower Hotel? We all know 5 people stepped on an elevator and were never seen again. And to keep the same thing from happening to you, pay attention to the missing letters on the directory that aren't so missing. If you're one of the few to spot this hidden message, you'll be left with an eerie warning.
Here's some of the scariest things that have been caught on camera, Part 5. On the evening of July 21st, 2021, a doorbell camera at a Los Angeles home captured one of the most disturbing scenes I've ever seen. At around 8 p.m., the young woman at the house was preparing dinner while waiting for her husband to return home from work. It was a very hot day, so she decided to open the window and let the evening breeze in. This caught the attention of a man on the sidewalk, and as he looked at the young woman, he decided to try and get a little closer.
I just rang your doorbell because I have a couple questions for you. Are you sure? Are you positive? Are you sure? I just have a couple questions for you.
He continuously repeats the same sentences as he rings the doorbell and knocks on the door, claiming to only have a few questions. The woman never responded to the man and claims she'd never seen him until that point. As he's walking away, her husband comes on the doorbell speaker asking who he is, and that's when he reveals his true intentions.
Are you sure? Who are you? Yeah, I just had a couple questions. I just wanted to ask you about the fuel. I want to rape her and kill her because I have a knife and a gun. And I just, I'm going to knock on the door.
Thankfully, none of his fantasies played out as he walked away for good. Soon after, he was arrested a few blocks away, and when asked for his name, he claimed to be the Holy Spirit. It was later found that his real name was Christopher Sums, and a background check found that he had an impressive job history and was actually a normal person not too long ago. What caused this rapid change in appearance and personality is unknown, but the footage captured that night will continue to haunt the internet.
You don't want to be filmed, right? Whatsoever. Okay, that's. Thank you so much for coming.
No, I definitely feel spiritual warfare here.
Okay, this isn't anything.
What I'm about to show you is the photo Katrina Whalen captured on her Ring camera the other night. So Katrina lives alone down a long country road in West Texas. And 3 nights ago she invited a friend over for dinner at 7 p.m. But 7 rolls around and her friend's not there. And then 8 rolls around and her friend is still not there. And that's when Katrina starts to hear footsteps outside. Slow at first, but then it starts to sound like someone is running full speed at her house. Thinking it's her friend, she goes to open the door, but no one is there. So Katrina calls her friend, but then when the other line picks up, it's just heavy breathing. And then laughing. She's really freaked out now, so she runs upstairs, but that's when she gets the notification that someone is at her front door. And this was that someone. Katrina is still alive to tell the tale, but there's been an uptick in Reddit users complaining in West Texas of hearing someone outside and then answering the door to see no one is there.
Dumbasses. Only in Appalachia.
Weird stuff out. I can hear weird stuff out here. So. Yep. Yep, there it is. Time to go. Time to go. Time to go. Time to go.
So it's about when you hear the screaming that you just gotta set your trash bag down and walk away.
On April 16th, 2010, in Newcastle High School, they went into a lockdown procedure. Somebody comes over the intercom and they say that there are reports of a dangerous individual who's inside the school. When this happens, Angela Germain just stays in place. She stays in the girls' bathroom and she ends up sending this blurry photo to her friend Kelly, and she's like, I gotta stay in here, oh my god. What she didn't realize was that when she sent that picture, in the dimmed emergency lights of that bathroom, she had captured the intruder who was hiding behind the end stall. But by the time her friend even notices the face and tells teachers and police and they get to the bathroom, Angela was found stabbed more than 15 times, having later succumbed to those injuries. Because of Angela's final photo and 2 other witnesses in the school, they do make a composite sketch, but they would never find this person. The only thing that we have left is the final frame in her camera roll. And if you are loving Creep Time, make sure to go follow on Insta.
This is not scary.
Surgery in the 1800s was fucking insane. Literally no anesthesia, no fucking drugs. You was awake while motherfuckers was chopping you up. One of the professional choppers, Robert Liston, was literally one of the fastest surgeons, which is good because you obviously want that shit to be over with fast. One day he was working so fast on a patient that he accidentally cut off 2 of his assistant's fingers. Both the patient and his assistant later died of gangrene. Oh, that's not all. Also, during the procedure, he accidentally swiped his blade past one of the elderly doctor's coats. The elderly doctor thought he was cut and literally went into shock and had a heart attack. So this motherfucker literally killed 3 people trying to save 1.
Here are some creepy facts that you didn't ask for, but I'm gonna tell you anyways because why the fuck not? First, if you have a dog and that dog is staring at something, but it's just, there's nothing there, get you and the dog out of the house. Burn the house out. I don't care what you do. If you feel scared, get out. If you're not scared, that's probably your aunt or like your uncle that died. That's no problem. Second, do not stare into a mirror, especially when you're naked. What the fuck are you doing? You are opening up a portal. You are making a demon fall in love with you. What was I talking about last time? The sucky vibe, something bending you over, like what? Air bending you over, be like, no, you don't want that. I don't want that thing to go like, oh, a big boondoggy. No, that is not it. If you are a dude.
Chat, don't listen to her. You can stare into mirrors all you want. Just not in the middle of the night. If you do it in the middle of the night, you're probably gonna die.
Think of it like, oh, alright. Talking about and then walk into the house. All those evil elements. If you walk backwards into the house, do not walk in like, oh my god, I don't know, you should, because for do not whistle. The second
you can whistle all you want at night.
Be like, what you want?
I've done it many times.
Here are some creepy facts that you didn't ask for, but I'm gonna tell you anyways to hear. Don't go checking back if she chases you. She chases you. That bitch is coming to eat you alive. All you do is get on your yellow eyes. Get the. You gotta wrap that feel. What?
Creepy voodoo man that my friend Chris got from an antique shop. Also gonna mention mention that I talked to the store owner and the employees, and yes, the antique shop is haunted. Meaning, a lot of the items that they get have spirit attachments. Chris had to take him away from my apartment because he was causing chaos in here. I'll explain that in a sec. But she did do a salt circle ritual around him, hoping that it would help. All was going well until Chris closes the storage unit and she didn't realize that the string cut open the salt circle. So we originally had to bring him there because, first of all, he flew off the counter, like was just sitting there, flew off, none of us were near him. My vanity opened by itself and we kept getting nightmares. And my boyfriend freaked out because someone shut and locked the bathroom door and no one was near it. But wait, there's more. It gets even crazier. Chris got a call today from the storage unit complaining that there's scratching coming from inside. They thought that she had like an animal in there or something, so it was aggressive enough to where they noticed it and had to call her. But the thing is, Chris is in New Jersey for a while, will not be back, and they need someone to go and check on it. Otherwise, they're gonna go open it themselves, and I really don't want that to happen. So Chris is gonna send me the keys, and I'm gonna go check on him and see what's going on. Guys, I'm scared. Stay tuned.
Should have put cameras in there, dumbass.
This is why driving alone late at night is not for everybody. The person who submitted this has been tagged down below. Her name is Zyra. About 2 years ago, Zyra was leaving the hospital. Her shift had just ended and it had been snowing. Being that it was about 11:30 p.m., the streets were pretty much empty. When she finally made it back to her car after working a long shift, she got in, looked over her passenger seat, and right away was filled with this sense of fear. She felt the presence of something, as if something was sitting in the passenger seat just staring at her. She tried to ignore it and shrugged it off, thinking that she was probably just tired, so she put some music on to distract herself. But as she was halfway home, she couldn't ignore it anymore. She kept saying silent prayers in her head, hoping whatever this thing was would leave her car, but no matter what she did, this thing just stayed in her passenger seat, just staring at her. She decides to then call her mom to try to get her mind off of it. Being that it was late, she didn't expect her mom to pick up, but after a couple rings, her mom did answer the phone. Her teenage niece was also awake, so between Zyra, her mom, and her niece, they all held a conversation over the speakerphone. Zyra started doing small talk, asking them about their day and how they felt about the snow, etc. Anything to get her mind off of the fact that she had this thing right next to her. Zyra eventually made it home, but it wasn't until after she got home that things got really scary. Her mom and her niece were just sitting in the kitchen waiting for her. Her niece then asked her, "So were you alone?" Zyra responds with, "What do you mean, like when I was in the car driving? Why are you asking me that?" Her niece then looked at her mom, and her mom says, "Well, I wasn't going to tell you while we were on the phone because I didn't want to freak you out, but we could hear a man talking in the background." At that moment, Zyra got goosebumps. Then her niece proceeds to tell her, "Yeah, it sounded like the man was talking right next to you, but we couldn't understand what he was saying." Zyra looked at both her mom and niece in shock and finally told them the reason why she had called them in the first place, because she felt this presence in her car. Till this day, she doesn't know what was sitting next to her in the car, but she knows whatever it was did not have any good plans for her. Quick little side note, she had just left the hospital. When you work at the hospital, especially night shift, there are things that wander around that area at all times, and it was probably just a moment of opportunity where this thing saw her and decided that it was gonna catch a ride with her.
If I were dead, I would get in people's cars too, just to fuck with them.
Okay, so many of you have tagged me in this video about this woman who's seeing her dead husband in a promotional video for some restaurant. It's not letting me do Reddit, so I saved it and I'm putting it in this video and I'm tagging the creator in the description. And then wait till after the video because there's something else that I'm adding from another creator who I'm also tagging in the description.
Have you guys heard this story? Holy shit. This is a wild ride. Get your tea ready. Okay, so this lady is Lucy Watson. She was on Facebook just scrolling along, and she accidentally came across this ad for a Indian restaurant near her house. She lives in the United Kingdom, so it's in West Sussex where this Indian restaurant is. The ad starts playing, and then she sees somebody in the ad that catches her attention. This is the ad. She sees this guy right here with the red circle, and she's like, wait a minute, that's my husband. The only problem is her husband, Harry Doherty, died 9 years ago. She said she watched this ad 30 times, and that's definitely him. And she said she recognized the guy sitting with him as his son, Alex. So obviously she's very confused. How can my husband, who died 9 years ago, be in this very new ad for this Indian restaurant? So she commented on the page. She was like, yo, how old is this footage? My late husband and his son are on the first shot, and he died in 2014. Ice Cottage, which is the restaurant, they write, sorry to hear this. This footage was recorded last week. What the fuck? So this starts going crazy online. People are like, wait a minute. If he died 9 years ago and that was filmed last week, like, what's the scoop? And Lucy says there's no doubt in her mind that's her husband. Like, that's my husband. You can't convince me otherwise. So her theory is that they're using old footage because her husband did used to go to this restaurant, and one of his favorite dishes is from this restaurant, like chicken korma or something like that. So she thinks the restaurant's using old footage to make it appear busy because it's never busy like that anymore. But the restaurant owner came out and was like, no, that's not old footage because you can see the furniture in the restaurant is new furniture that we just got a couple weeks ago. But Lucy's like, nah, bullshit. And then Alex, which is Harry's son, he comes out publicly and he's like, look, that was not me and my dad in that restaurant. And for context, Alex was Harry's son, not Harry and Lucy's son. And since Harry's passing, Alex and Lucy have lost contact with each other. So Alex, the son's like, yo, that's not my dad. We weren't there. And Lucy's like, yeah, no bullshit. That's you and that's my late husband. Now, Lucy went on to explain she doesn't think her husband faked his death because he was very ill in his final days. He had some type of liver disease. He lost a bunch of weight, was very sickly, and ultimately he tragically passed prior to a liver transplant. So she doesn't think that he faked his death or anything, but she said that's him 810%. And the Spice Cottage says that video is a week old whether you like it or not. What the fuck is going on? What do you think's happening?
Okay, that was really fucking crazy, right? But wait, here's a screenshot from another creator's video who's also tagged down below with a message from the restaurant. It says, in regards to the incident regarding the Lucy Watson comment and her interview, we would like to clarify some misunderstandings. So now I'm thinking, they're going to clear it up and clearly it was an old video. I run the social media side of the business and recorded a promotional video to portray our new wooden tables and interior refurbishments. The refurbishment was completed in early January of 2023. The promotional video highlights these changes. All videos used in the video were recorded on January 9th, 2023. Before January 2023, all of our tables were covered by white and red cloths. Henceforth, it is evident this footage is recent. This is a very unusual situation, and we hope this clarifies any confusion. It does not clarify it.
Whoa, wait 1 second. Karma. Oh, you guys don't know what Karma is? Karma is an online shopping experience like no other. I've been using Karma for a while now, and it's helped me get the best prices available in real time. Guys, it's free. Karma is a free app or browser extension that scans the entire web for any available coupon codes. It has saved me so much money, it's actually insane. It will apply those coupon codes at checkout to save you guys money as well. Like, look at this super coupon man go. He's currently scanning for coupons right now. You can save to your wish list and Karma will alert you of any price drops and back to stock so you never miss out on anything ever again. Karma also allows the ability to pay with Karma. You enter your payment method once and that's it. You can shop everywhere and get that special Karma price, lower than the store itself. So guys, click that first link down below. Thank you so much to Karma for sponsoring today's video. Click that link. Trust me, you will save a lot of money. It's free and it's just in time for Christmas. Check it out.
Stupid
Could this
ads.
be a gateway to another world? Tales of haunted places and mysterious phenomena have always intrigued us. Have you heard about the Kiyotaki Tunnel in Kyoto, Japan? It's known to be one of the most haunted spots in all of Japan. This tunnel was built by slaves during the 1920s, and it's said that those who drive through it can hear women screaming from a nearby forest and experience certain fatigue, headaches, and nausea.
Alright guys, let's talk about the man from Torred. In 1954, the man from Torred arrived in Tokyo Airport in Japan. However, his passport was weird. It said United Kingdom of Torred, and this does not exist. After seeing the passport, officials think it's a fake, so they detain him. He points on the map where it should be, and it's Andorra. He's confused, and now the officials are also confused. He claims Torred has been around for over 1,000 years. The officials check his passport, it's genuine, and it has stamps from multiple countries on it as well. On his passport, it even said Torred citizen. He had a lot of documentation, European currencies, all that stuff. Officials took a lot of his documentation to investigate and put him in a hotel room to figure out what's going on here. They even had guards guarding the door. The next morning, the man from Torred was completely gone, and the documents the officials had were also gone. A lot of people speculate he's from a parallel universe and somehow managed to end up here. Others speculate it's just a case of fraud. Whatever it may be, it's very creepy. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below.
Concentrates is a creepy game that shows you how you're going to die. One person closes their eyes, while another sits or stands behind them. The person behind recites a poem, whilst performing the actions. This poem is very long, so if you want to give this a go, then I'll let you look it up for yourselves. Just Google the Concentrate game and you'll find it. Now, at the end of this little ritual, the person in front will see a colour when they open their eyes. The colour that you see supposedly represents how you're going to die. For example, blue represents drowning, white represents dying of old age and going to heaven, and there are a bunch of others. I very vaguely remember playing this as a child, but is this something that you would ever try, or maybe you already have?
That thing is actually a big fin squid and it's believed to grow up to 26 feet long. Scientists believe they hunt by dragging those freakish arms across the ocean floor, snatching up anything unlucky enough to accidentally brush up against it. But by far the scariest thing about this hell squid, we know almost nothing about it. We don't know how they mate, how they live. All we know for sure is that you can find them at the very bottom of the ocean at depths of up to 15,000 feet, which is more than half the height of Mount Everest. Here's the part that personally freaks me out. Every big fin ever caught was a juvenile, and since no adults have ever been captured, it's possible they can be even bigger than we thought. This sea slender man's arms are covered in tiny suckers, meaning once it grabs something, there aren't a lot of things strong enough to break free. Those arms can be over 90% of their total body length, and they hold it at a 90-degree angle, which makes this violation against nature look like it's T-posing. As technology improves, we might have a chance to learn more about them. Which isn't a good thing, they need to stay in hell.
This is Pam Reynolds. She died on the operating table for an entire hour. And while she was gone, she had one of the most bizarre near-death experiences ever recorded. In 1991, she suffered from a severe brain aneurysm and underwent a surgery that was almost certain to kill her. While in surgery, she was clinically dead for 60 minutes in a state of stasis. This is when the body is drained of its blood, the heart is stopped, and the brain ceases all neural activity. While in this state, Dr. Robert Spessler was able to successfully mend the brain aneurysm, and she regained consciousness shortly after. Upon her awakening, what she told doctors and nurses completely baffled them. It was impossible. She said she was above herself and the surgery as it happened. She was able to recall and quote what the doctors and nurses were saying and doing. While in this state, Pam also said that she recalled a presence of pure light beside her, but she didn't know who or what it was. Before the surgery, Pam said her final words and goodbyes to her loved ones in case she didn't make it. But during her experience, she said that she had no desire to re-enter her body. She knew her kids would be fine, and she really did not want to come back. But something told her that she had to, and it simply wasn't her time. After this experience, Pam no longer feared death and scoffed at any mention of the matter. Her doctor, Robert F. Spitzler of the Barrow Neurological Institute, was absolutely in shock at the things that she told him, saying there was zero possibility of brain activity during this procedure. They had all sorts of equipment to monitor heart and brain activity. They would have noticed even a microscopic amount of neurons firing. Pam Reynolds would pass away at the age of 53 in 2010, nearly 20 years after her experience. She left behind an incredible story, one that, in my opinion, proves that there's life after death.
I lost my puppy last year. I think this is him. His name was Sleeping Beauty. Sleeping Beauty, come here, Bull. He still remembers me and wants to give me a big hug.
Never go in the woods of southeast Oklahoma. On a foggy day in 1970, a group of high school kids are cruising the back roads of southeast Oklahoma.
One of the boys had to pee, so they pulled over. He got out of the truck, walked about 50 yards into the woods so that he couldn't be seen. He heard a tree snap, looked up, and he's staring in the eyes of a creature 3 foot taller than any man. It had matted hair, red eyes, and blood dripping off its chin. The boys ran as fast as they could back to the truck, yelling, "Start the truck, start the truck." But what happens next is terrifying. The boys go to the sheriff's department, and when the deputy goes out to investigate, all he sees is animal carcasses everywhere. And the legend of the Green Hill Monster was born.
I think a lot about the story behind this picture. No matter how many times I tell it, it's still chilling. In the 18th district of Hong Kong in the early 2000s, this picture was captured outside of an apartment window. What the news articles described was that witnesses saw her, she appeared to be having some kind of psychotic episode, and they thought that was the end of it. It was just a midday bizarre disruption. What they didn't know was that this person would become the primary suspect in one of the worst murders the 18th district would ever see. Roughly 40 minutes, maybe after that picture was taken, and about 2 miles from the location, a family home of 9 was broken into with only one person surviving that attack. Now, the sole survivor of the attack was able to give a witness testimony to the police. This is the only photo they've ever run of the suspect on television, but what he described she did almost sounded inhuman. Breaking bones, ripping people's jaws open with her bare hands, even a report that she tried to eat people. This frame is the only one we got of her.
Let's take a look. The thing I'm obsessed with most about urology is...
I need to plug my phone in.
Nightmarish facts about your body that you probably shouldn't think about. Part 1. Due to the brain's lack of pain receptors, brain surgery is often performed while the patient is awake and talking. And in some cases of brain surgery, the surgeon will pull your face forward like a banana. Men's nipples can be stimulated enough to produce milk. Once you turn 30 years old, you can expect to lose half an inch every 10 years. When you developed in the womb, your anus was formed before anything else. So at one point, you were nothing but an asshole. Your penis has rifling. That's why the string twists. If you decapitate someone, their head will remain conscious for 15 to 20 seconds, which is long enough for them to realize what you did to them.
These are some of the most unsettling Christmas stories ever, and I found all these on Reddit. Number 1. Don't eat Santa's cookies. In South Africa, there's a story about a young boy who got really hungry one Christmas Eve and decided to eat all of Santa's cookies that were left out by the family. Of course, the mother woke up and realized that the son had eaten all of the cookies, and she did not like this. So, like any rational parent, she killed him. Eventually, time went on and the mother passed away, but her ghost still haunts all of the houses on Christmas Eve. Sounds pretty demented, huh? Well, this is a story that parents use in South Africa to tell their kids to make sure that they don't eat all of the cookies that are left out for Santa Claus. Kind of extreme, but, gets the job done. Number 2, Mother Grilla. Now, I told you guys about the dark story that South Africans tell their kids, but what about Icelandic families? Well, Icelandic parents will tell their kids about Mother Grilla. You see, Mother Grilla is a half-troll, half-ogre that's covered in warts and has horns. And the story goes for Icelandic kids that if you're bad around Christmas time, Mother Grilla will get her kids to chase you down and kidnap you. And she kidnaps the kids so that she may put them in a soup and eat them. And this story was so dark and traumatizing that the Icelandic government had to ban the telling of this story. Or maybe they're trying to cover something up. And finally, Krampus. Now, Krampus is probably the most popular one that I'm going to talk about today. I mean, the dude had a freaking movie. But for those of you that don't know, let me tell you. Krampus is a popular Central European monster that was brought up around Christmas time. Much like all the other stories I told you, Krampus was made up to make sure that kids behave during the holiday season. The story would go that you had to behave or else a half-goat, half-demon monster would come and cut off your thumbs and then kill you. It's believed that Krampus used to be used for pagan rituals during the winter solstice. Imagine worshipping a goat demon. And to add insult to injury, Krampus, according to the Norse legend, is the son of Hel, aka the Norse ruler of the underworld. And I know, Christmas is supposed to be a fun time, but I gotta give you some dark facts every once in a while. So that's why
This schoolboy stabbed his teacher to death in front of a classroom full of students. 61-year-old Anne Maguire was a Spanish teacher teaching in Leeds. She'd actually worked at the school for 40 years and she was only 5 months off retirement. However, in April 2014, something absolutely horrific happened. One of her students was 15-year-old Will Cornick. He'd always been described as a smart student who never really caused any trouble. Classmates regarded him as a polite student, but after he got diagnosed with diabetes, his personality seemed to change. In 2013, he tried to join the army, but because of his diagnosis, he was rejected. Being in the army had been his dream, so this was really upsetting for him. After failing to complete his Spanish homework, he was given detention by Anne. He also expressed a wish to her that he wanted to drop Spanish, but she wouldn't let him, which only angered him more. He began to develop a deep-rooted grudge against Anne. Shockingly, he reportedly messaged his friends on Facebook asking if one of them would kill her for him for £10. During one school day, halfway through his Spanish class, Will decided to get up and attack Anne with a knife. The classmates watched on in horror as he chased her out of the classroom. When there, another teacher heard her screams and tried to shield Anne from any more blows from him. Will then allegedly returned to his class and told his classmates how it was a shame that he hadn't killed her. However, Anne did actually pass away from her injuries. Will later admitted that he did plan also to kill 2 other teachers. One of them was actually pregnant at the time. He's been sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 20 years.
What do you think makes this picture so disturbing to look at? This is a real photo of the Hiroshima shadows, the last trace of the exact spot where this person stood in Hiroshima, Japan. This is exactly as they were at 8:16 a.m. August 6, 1945, as the atomic bomb detonated over the city. It's like looking at their last moment here that's burned into the stone. Why even tell you this story? Why bring up a nuclear attack? Well, experts would tell us that the risks are rising, partly because of what you're using to watch this video. Literally as simple as a computer or your phone. Computers are vulnerable to these increasingly sophisticated cyber attacks, and as more and more computers are integrated into the worldwide nuclear system, they are also susceptible to cyber attacks. Even just technical errors have brought humanity to a nuclear brink in the past, and in today's cyber age, there's no telling when humanity's luck is going to run out. More people, elected leaders who can become aware of the threat of hack nukes, the less likely we will ever see a picture like this again.
You can be confident choosing Farmers Insurance. There's no need to knock on wood.
Perfect.
Unnatural amount of natural light.
Thank you.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
I'm gonna bite his off. I'm 100% in for this.
Who are you?
Just a guy. Just a guy.
Tell me in a sentence who you are.
More like a nobody.
Happy Halloween, aren't you glad you follow me? I'm just get this out the way. Australia. Specifically in the rainforest of Australia. This is a pink underwing moth, also called the imperial fruit-sucking moth, which is important because that's what they eat, fruits and the nectar of very specific flowering plants. So even though it looks like a xenomorph fetus or something out of Bleach, it's harmless. Like physically. Mental health-wise, I can't promise you that. Those eyes are actually a trick they evolved to scare off possible predators like birds. Because when you're an easy lick, the best thing you can do is lie and pray no one calls your bluff. They're kind of like pandas when you subtract a pretty privilege. As in the reason you've probably never seen one before is because they're only found one place in the world. And that's because they insist on eating mostly one thing, and that's the Coronia vine and the fruit that grows off of it. They make it so much of their personality that the same way pandas can only exist where there's bamboo, this bleach bug can literally only survive where this vine is. At least they look kinda normal as adults, when they mostly cosplay as dead leaves. Except when they extend their wings and flash the pink under it, which is how they got their name. Either way, moral of this video, Australia.
Bikes have a weird history, because bike chains weren't invented until 1880. When Carl von Draves invented the first bike in 1817, it was actually just called a Swiftwalker. There were no pedals, the wheels were wooden, and the frame was just a wooden beam you sat your crotch on. So you just had to pray that the blueberries weren't hurt during a bumpy ride. And it was banned from New York City 3 months after its release, presumably because Jacob Radcliffe injured his blueberries on them. Kirkpatrick Macmillan invented the first ever pedal bike, called the Velocipede, and unveiled it in 1839. The same old wooden frame with a saddle for blueberry comfort, handlebars for steering, and pedals on the axle on the front wheel. Nothing could stand in their way. Like, literally, go stand in their way because brakes weren't invented yet. Believe it or not, and this is the last time I'll reference male reproductive organs, but the saddle velocipedes were actually worse under now pulverized berries because you had to sit upright, and unlike with tires, these wooden wheels were not built to absorb any bumps or vibrations, so during their time it was rightfully nicknamed the bone shaker. Between the late 1800s and the early 1900s, tires, bike chains, and other notable advancements were made in bike technology, but not all at once, and that's why we have things like the penny farthing. These things had them like 6 feet up in the air, had no brakes, and they wore no sort of padding. They were seen as death traps because, well, they kept killing people. They were pretty bad because whenever you fell off of them, you tended to land on your head and neck, and you sort of need those to live. Luckily for everyone, the safety bike was invented. They killed more people off of them than on them when people were hit, because they were 80 pounds. For comparison, a bike today weighs 18. So one of these now, steel-framed, chain-enforced torpedoes comes flying down a hill at 30 miles an hour, and you're just dead. So be happy for what you have, you sniveling ungrateful.
Is what 25 million of you wanted to see. But for those who don't know, I found this locked box in my attic wall, and the key was rattling inside this mirror. Someone didn't want us to find it, but we have.
What you have is a demon, because you're an idiot.
Really strange objects were inside. Like this small pendant necklace. What looks like a burnt piece from a Ouija board. It's covered in wax.
Yup.
A second key. And this lock of hair. Not sure why it was hidden, but if there's a second key, there could be another box. Follow and we'll keep looking.
Yeah, no thanks.
I've been using Karma for the past year now. It's an all-in-one shopping app and extension that helps you get any product you want at the best price. I've been using it for everything fashion-related, but you know how recently I moved into a new house. So I've been using it to buy a lot of things for my home. Let me show you guys. This mirror right here, I got 30% off by using Karma. This toy thing right here for Foxy, I got 20% off by using Karma. This sword thing I got for 30% off by using Karma. It's really just saving me money here. Karma scans the web for all available coupon codes and applies them at checkout automatically so you never miss out on saving. This is a special feature if you use Karma on your computer, so the Chrome extension is a must. So basically all you have to do is go here and download the Chrome extension, and boom, it works. And it has other cool features. You get to save your items and wish list, and you get to organize your shopping. You get cash back every time you shop, and even donate that cash if you really want. And you get real-time notifications on items you save, so you never miss out on the items you want. Go get Karma's free Chrome extension with the link below. And there's a great giveaway, so you can check out the details below.
Could you use some extra side income every month? Well, thanks to this free app available in the App Store.
Why did people used to wear this suit? Now, at first glance, this suit looks like something straight out of a horror film or from Halloween. But believe it or not, this is not a Halloween costume and isn't from a horror film. This right here is a Siberian bear hunting suit used back in the 1800s. Now, it's pretty self-explanatory in the name, bear hunting suit. People would wear this suit out in Siberia when they were going to hunt bears or other animals. Now, as you can see, the suit is made from full metal and has lots of large, extremely sharp spikes on it. So say someone was out hunting the deer and a bear was to come and attack them, the bear wouldn't last long. The spikes were designed not to kill the bear, but just to hurt it a tiny bit so it would run off and not hurt the person. Pretty smart idea.
My mom survived a serial killer, and this is her story. Okay, so my mom was attending college, and she was walking out of the library when a very handsome man with a beard approached her. It was raining really hard, and he complimented her cute polka-dotted umbrella. Anyways, they strike up a conversation, and he mentions that because he's a photography student, he notices things like cute umbrellas, he's got an eye for it. But the university my mom is going to, they had a dress code, and beards were not allowed for students to have at that time, and so she had a little red flag like, if he's a student here, how does he have a beard? So the conversation's winding down, and he offers to hold her umbrella and walk her to her car because her hands were full of books. She says that she really didn't want him to walk her, like she just had this weird feeling, but felt awkward saying no, so she said yes. As she starts approaching her car, she said that her stomach started getting the butterflies, and it's like she just knew not to go to her car. And I think it's worth mentioning, pausing the story right here, because I work for a nutrition company, and I learned that your gut has 500 million neurons, and your brain has 1 billion, or 100 billion, I don't remember. Okay, I just looked it up. 100 billion neurons are in your brain, 500 million are in your gut. And that's why they call your gut your second brain, because they are totally connected. So if you have a gut feeling, you have to listen to it. So they're walking in the parking lot, and he's asking, okay, so which car is yours? Which direction do we walk? And my mom just can't take that feeling in her stomach anymore. She goes, oh shoot, you know what? I just remembered. I have to meet up with a friend. No need to walk me to my car anymore. I actually have to go back to the building. She then says that he acted a little bit annoyed, but he smiled and asked if he could call her later. That because it's close to finals week, he had one final project where he needed to photograph somebody and thought that she would be perfect and he would love to connect with her. Now, my cutie mama is the biggest people pleaser you will ever meet in your entire life. Maybe that's where I get it from. And she couldn't say no. But instead, she decided to come up with like a loop around where I just moved into my new apartment, so I don't remember the new phone number. But if you can look at my parents in the phone book, you can call them and then we can connect. Now, my grandma and grandpa have very unoriginal names. There's at least 10 people with the same names in the phone book. So she figured, one, he's probably not going to spend the time looking in the phone book, and two, he's not going to figure out like which number is theirs. So my mom scurries off and thinks that she's avoided some weirdo, but didn't really think much of it until later that night.
This woman melted into her couch after her parents neglected her for over 12 years. On January 3rd, 2022, 36-year-old Lacey Fletcher was found naked and deceased on her parents' couch in Slaughter, Louisiana. Lacey had extreme social anxiety, severe autism, Asperger's, and other mental health issues. She attended Brownfield Baptist Academy up until the 9th grade, and then she was transitioned into homeschooling. Lacey's parents, Sheila Fletcher and Clay Fletcher, were her legal caretakers, but they literally watched as their daughter was dying. Lacey was left to melt and rot into her couch for years until she passed away. She was only 96 pounds when she was found, and she was covered in feces, urine, maggots, and insect bites. Her hair was knotted, matted, and filled with maggots, while fecal matter was all over her face and body. Lacey's bottom had ulcers and bacterial infection from all the urine and feces that was left there for who knows how long. The couch eventually began to melt away along with her skin, which then created this hole. Lacey's cause of death was from severe medical neglect, which led to chronic malnutrition, acute starvation, immobility, acute ulcer formation, and osteomyelitis, which led to sepsis. An investigator mentioned that the crime scene was so disturbing that he was unable to eat, and he cried for a whole week. Sheila and Clay Fletcher insisted that Lacey chose to never leave the couch, but they were still arrested on Monday, May 2nd, 2022. They've been indicted in second-degree murder charges and may get life in prison with no parole if they are convicted. I literally felt sick to my stomach after learning about this case. Have you guys heard?
After 65 long years, the identity of the boy in the box has officially been confirmed. On February 25, 1957, a little boy between the ages of 3 and 7 was found murdered and stuffed inside of a bassinet box on the side of the road in Pennsylvania. He had been wrapped in a plaid blanket, was malnourished, and had suffered extreme physical abuse prior to his death. His cause of death was determined to be blunt force trauma, but the odd part is that he appeared to be clean and freshly groomed with a haircut and even had trimmed fingernails. Authorities took the boy's fingerprints and discovered a lot of clues left behind at the crime scene. And soon the case gained massive media attention, so investigators truly believed that his murder and identity would soon be solved. But instead, the case went cold for over 6 decades. No one knew the identity of this poor little boy, and when he was officially buried, his tombstone read, "America's Unknown Child." But as of yesterday, November 30th, 2022, police sources in Philadelphia have officially confirmed that they now know who he is. With advances in DNA analysis and being cross-referenced with genealogical information, a DNA profile was successfully developed and was traced to a, quote, prominent family in Delaware County, Pennsylvania, end quote. From that, authorities were able to track down the little boy's birth certificate and have announced that as early as next week, they will be able to release the little boy's name to the public. I'm assuming they have to wait in order to notify the family. But even though the little boy's identity has been confirmed, the murder itself is still unsolved. The case is still open, and according to authorities, criminal charges could still be filed. There have been many theories as to what could have happened to the little boy, but there have been 2 that kind of stuck around. The first theory is that the little boy lived in a foster home that was located about 1.5 miles from where his body was found. Upon searching the foster home during an estate sale, authorities found that they were selling a similar bassinet that would have came in the box that the little boy was found in. Authorities also discovered similar blankets to what the little boy was wrapped in, hanging from a clothesline at the foster home. But all of this evidence was circumstantial, so authorities closed the investigation into the foster home in 1998. The second theory came from a woman named Martha, who in 2002 claimed that her abusive mom purchased the little boy in 1954. Martha claimed that he was subjected to extreme abuse, and on the night he died, he had thrown up his meal of baked beans before being beaten and given a bath where he eventually died. This claim matched information only known to the police, as the coroner confirmed the little boy's stomach contained baked beans. Also that his fingers had been water wrinkled. Ultimately, though, police were unable to verify her story and deemed it unreliable, as the woman had a history of mental illness. Even though it's been 65 years, we are one step closer to getting full justice for this little boy, and he officially will no longer be known as America's Unknown Child.
This video may look like a group of friends just going out to get takeout, but trust me when I say something much more disturbing is at play. This is the devastating case of Mary Collins, a 20-year-old girl who disappeared in the early days of the COVID lockdowns. Now, due to COVID, her case didn't really get the media attention it deserves, but I do warn you, the brutality of what happened to her is shocking. On the 28th of March 2020, Mary headed out the door and got into an Uber to head to her friend's house. Her friend's name was Levy Pham, this guy, and he was a high school friend of hers and a former boyfriend. Mary was also going to meet his now girlfriend, Kelly Lavery, this girl. Now, Mary was special needs and she actually had a syndrome that impaired her ability to move around, but she was lonely. And so when Lavy and Kelly asked her to go hang out with them, she thought they were just being friendly. Now, it's important to note that when she got there was another guy present. This guy, James Solano. Now, all of them sort of went out to go get sushi, and that was the video you saw posted by Levy. You can see them walking into his apartment. You can see them all walking to the apartment, but sadly Mary would never walk out. Now, Mary's family knew she'd gone out to meet some friends. They were immediately concerned when they did not hear from her. They sent her multiple messages and called her a few times. And because of her special needs, they were concerned. Now, Mary actually lived with her grandmother, Mia Alderman. And when Mary didn't come home, Mia went straight to Levy's apartment and banged on his door. Now, the couple, Kelly and Levy, they opened the door and told Mia that Mary had left after they had all eaten sushi. But that did not make sense to Mia. She knew that Mary would have needed help getting home. So Mia went straight to the police and filed a missing person report. Now, due to the circumstances around the case, the missing persons unit were quite slow to respond. But Mia knew that Mary was still in that apartment, and so she continued to turn up at Levy's door. At one stage, the couple even let her in to let her search the apartment, but they did not let her go into the back rooms. All they let her do was do a quick scan. But Mia was simply convinced. It got so bad that the missing person unit actually told Mia that she had to stop harassing Levy and Kelly. that they were doing their own investigation. After some time, the case finally gets the break it so desperately needed. Uploading part 2.
So some guys got a surprise catch out in the ocean. Check out this fish they got, guys. This is absolutely incredible.
Oh, look at this thing. It's like a sailfish.
This is the story of Ghost Boy, the man who was trapped in his own body for 12 years. Martin Pistorius was a 12-year-old boy growing up in South Africa when he went home sick from school one day. But sadly, Martin never got better. His body weakened, he lost control of his muscles, and he was left unable to communicate. Doctors said that he had a neurodegenerative disease and told his parents that he was unaware of the world around him. But that was completely wrong. He said that for over a decade he was awake, but no one noticed. He was constantly abused by his caretakers, sexually, physically, and mentally, and was even told by his own mother that she wished that he was dead. This all changed when one day a caregiver realized that Martin was actively trying to communicate with her, and suggested to his parents that they have him retested. And his parents were absolutely shocked by the results of the test.
Celebrities of the sea spirits.
I personally know you put the work in. So, I...
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Weird. Hello. Oh my goodness. Hello. Ew. Strawberries. Oh, yeah, it was weird.
Leave room for the Holy Ghost. Anyway, there is a lot of memories today, actually. It's a big day in music history.
So he saw a ghost because he's staring at the camera.
Presley passed away. The king of rock and roll, as Marco says in his great song Walking in Memphis.
Have you ever heard of the urban legend Polybus? It is said to be one of the most sinister video games that never existed. Set in an arcade in Portland, Oregon during the 1980s, this vector graphic game involved players shooting geometric shapes while sounds and objects flashed on screen. There have been reports that it caused side effects such as headaches, migraines, seizures, and even suicide. Even more mysteriously, mysterious men in black were said to make frequent visits to inspect Bolivia's machine before taking notes and leaving without a word. After a few months, it is rumored that the machine was quietly removed from all arcades in Portland without explanation. The company behind Silent Solutions, translated in English as Through Deprivation, had ties to psychological government experiments conducted at the time.
What's most likely to kill you? Gen Z has the highest chance of dying by an overwhelming amount of 50% by an accident, because most are healthy on the outside, so it takes things like car crashes and unintentional poisoning. But because they're unhealthy on the inside, the second leading cause of death is at their own hands, and the third most likely to be killed in a homicide. So, millennials' leading cause of death is also unintentional. Yeah, grandma's bones might be stiff, but they're still strong. And their second highest is actually malignant neoplasm, also known as cancer, while the third is heart disease. They're the middle child nobody ever talks about, and I don't intend on reversing that. Boomers are actually the reverse of millennials, and the forgotten child. They're most likely to have heart disease and leave the earth, prematurely. For number 2, with cancer. And number 3, chronic low respiratory. Now being killed, which I guess is mostly for Gen Z, women are most likely to be killed in their homes by their partner. Men are most likely to be killed pretty much anywhere, usually by a friend or a neighbor. And lastly, if you live in the red counties, you're more likely to die from pretty much everything. So, say your goodbyes to Tennessee and Kentucky, I guess.
If you live in Australia, you're most likely not going to die. However, if you live in Australia and you're stupid, you're going to die.
This game needs 2 people to play, and like with a lot of these games, one person has to close their eyes and relax. You tell that person to count to 10 in their head and then nod. Then you take their arms and move them up and down, above and below each other. So I'm going to kind of try and demonstrate. Basically, you would take their arms like this and move them up and down. You do that 10 times. You then repeat that whole process, but moving their arms 5 times. Then you do it again 7 times, and then once more 3 times. Click your fingers next to their ears 3 times, and then tell them to repeat after you. Dead man, take me to your grave and kill me. The person with their eyes closed will then start repeating this phrase until their arms start lifting up on their own. And that's it, a ritual game that's supposed to make your arms move by themselves. Is this game dangerous? I haven't found any reports saying that it is, so it's probably one of the safer ones. But please be careful anyway, and as always, play at your own risk.
Mandela effects that'll make you question everything, part 21. I remember Tinkerbell dotting the I. She never did. I remember the King Tut mask having a snake in the middle. There's also a vulture. I remember Shaggy having an Adam's apple. He never did.
No, we did not.
Like and follow for more.
An 11-year-old boy came across this girl buried underneath the sand, and this is what happened. Part 2. The people running toward them were the girl's parents. They were confused why a little boy was administering CPR to their daughter Alyssa, but they let him continue while they called the paramedics. It seemed as if Alyssa was breathing again, but only the paramedics could determine whether Connor performed the procedure correctly. When the ambulance arrived, they rushed her to the hospital and said that a sand cave had collapsed on her, and that if Connor hadn't performed CPR, she would have suffocated. Eventually, she made a complete recovery, and Connor was given a National Youth Hero Award for his brave action.
This is an If I Go Missing binder. I recommend everybody have one of these. First section is materials for the police. I have a $15 gift card to Dunkin' Donuts. Okay, and then this, you don't have to actually think this. This is just so that they care enough to solve your case. Next is a picture of me for identification purposes, artificially aged. This is what I would look like if I was dead. Things for the media, so the news, documentaries. I just have some like good pictures of me. This is one that they can use for the, like when they say he was so happy until. Sometimes they like to use social media posts, so I gave them a happy one and a sad one. Last but not least is a hair sample. I see people make this mistake all the time. You need the root. You can't just have, there's no DNA on just your hair. You gotta have the root of the hair. That's what they need. So this, I just did this for my leg.
Do y'all remember the racist turtle? You know, that turtle that had on-site beef with every black Air Force in its area code, but was also Helen Keller to any kick that was Caucasian? Well, here's why. Male tortoises often box any other male tortoises near them, like it's a territorial thing, especially if there's a female involved. Like, we all know that one dude that starts wilding once a woman enters the chat, but you probably already knew that. However, some tortoises, like the Travancore from India, will literally ram into females. But instead of fighting, it's flirting, since physical violence seems to trigger ovulation. I'm gonna leave that alone. Also, when a male tortoise gets older and gets the urge to mate while being, mateless, this can actually cause hormonal aggression. It's why you really shouldn't have one male by himself, because eventually he'll start squaring up with random objects, like sneakers. But why do the white Air Forces get a pass? Well, let's be honest, white is not a color that does well in the wild. Usually when an animal comes out white, it's by accident. White just isn't a color they see a whole lot of in the wild, so there's a good chance they can see it, but they just don't see it as a threat. Or at least not as much as with a black Air Force. Also, I'm not saying they're stupid. Apparently you can remove their brain, it can function perfectly normally for the next 6 months, so probably weren't getting a whole lot of mileage with it anyway. The more you know.
This case was brought to my attention by a viewer, and it honestly has thrown me through a complete loop. This is 14-year-old Samantha Humphrey, who is from Schenectady, New York. She has been missing since November 25th of 2022, and last she was heard of was when she told her friends that she was going to meet up with her ex-boyfriend. According to reports, her phone was last pinged at the Mohawk River, and that is also where they last saw her on surveillance footage. As of today, police are still searching for Samantha, and they do believe that foul play is involved. For example, her jacket was found on the river. As this is still an active missing persons case, please contact the authorities down below if you have any information that may be valuable to them, and also I will be keeping you guys updated.
So I was out antiquing the other day when I found this.
a full, gigantic collection of racist propaganda from the turn of the century. And the question I have to ask to you, fellow antiquers, is should this be allowed to be sold in stores? Does it belong in a museum? I just feel some kind of way about it.
The Cheeto Dust Killer. February 9th, 2006.
Who the hell goes by the Cheeto Dust Killer?
And a bag of Cheetos as he talks to 29-year-old Sonia Medja outside of her apartment. Suddenly, the man smacks Sonia hard on the head and forces both of them into the apartment. When Sonia's husband comes home, he finds the man's food outside the door. Inside the apartment, he finds Sonia stripped nude and strangled to death on the bed, and her body covered in Cheeto dust. Let's fast forward to February 9th, the same day, but a year later and only a mile away from the previous crime. An unknown man breaks into the apartment of Damiana Castillo and smothers her with a pillow. The investigators compared the two crimes and matched the DNA to the same man. Unfortunately, the judge has sealed the case, so the verdict is unknown. But what we do know is that police found the man who we call...
What is really going on beneath us? There is a theory that there are deep underground bases that connects all of the United States, as well as every continent on the planet, using underground tunnels. It is also said that horrible things happen in these tunnels. The underground bases are also said to be extremely advanced, using a super fast train to get around. Well, Elon Musk recently started a tunneling company, which mysteriously got discontinued. Was it because they discovered something underground? Something that we humans were not meant to find. That is why people wonder.
I already know this video is going to show up at night for you, I don't care. You tell that there is something deeply wrong with this soda. It's discovered in a hidden lockbox after her grandfather had passed, and the woman who found it, Michaela Jerome, she thought the same thing that you did. There's something that's kind of off about this picture. Very quickly, if you're not already, make sure to go check out my podcast, The Scariest One You Know, Creep Time the Podcast. You can use the link in my bio. We're on Spotify and Apple. Well, the photo, she was almost sure, clearly showed the staircase of her family home. But she couldn't be sure about what this was in the center until she enhanced the photo. A hauntingly clear image of what appears to be a woman clawing her way up those stairs. She eventually turned in this photo for analysis with the police, and it took them 4 months, but they determined that this was more than likely a scenario of captivity. If her grandfather did take this picture, he had this woman in his possession. Still, nobody would even know who she was.
June 14, 1969, 6-year-old Dennis Martin disappeared while camping with family in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. It was 4:30 in the afternoon, still daylight out, and young Dennis was seen going behind a bush to hide with the intention of jumping out and scaring the adults. He hid behind the bush with his brother and other children from another family. Dennis's father saw exactly which bush he hid behind, but Dennis didn't come out. And after about 5 minutes, Dennis's father began searching for him. He ran down the trail for nearly 2 miles with no trace of him at all, and that's when the search began. They had over 1,400 people looking for Dennis and later stumbled upon a shoe and a sock, as well as a set of footprints, one with a shoe and one bare footprint, which led to a stream where they disappeared. But the father still believes that Dennis was abducted. Dennis disappeared while wearing a bright red shirt, so he should have been easy to spot. And on the afternoon that Dennis went missing, another family at the campground recalled hearing a sickening scream. And shortly after, they witnessed a bear that moved like a man with something red slumped over his shoulder while running up the trail.
Top 3 stadium disasters. Number 3, the Hillsborough disaster. England, April 15th, 1989, before a soccer match. Over 50,000 tickets were sold to a game, and the fans of opposing teams were kept separate, as it could get violent otherwise, and the clock was ticking until kickoff. Police Chief Duckenfield decided not to set a delay, and as minutes went by, fans became more and more anxious to miss the game, causing more and more pushing and panicking. Duckenfield then called to open 2 more gates, to let everybody else in. So then thousands of fans started rushing to the new gates. The game starts, and people are still rushing into the new gates. So many, in fact, that people started to hop over the fence onto the field, and the game was stopped. As police rushed over to see the overpacked stands near the new gates, people started to panic. Some people were pulled to safety in the stands above, and whoever can climb on top of the crowd to escape were doing it for their lives. As there were so many people, the pressure started to squeeze everyone so tight they could barely breathe. It's now people realize how dangerous the situation had gotten. There weren't even enough stretchers to carry the injured. Fans helped by using advertisement boards to carry more injured. In this human stampede, 96 people died from being trampled and suffocated, and 766 other people were injured. Number 2. In the Le Mans race of 1955, Mike Hawthorne slowed down to make a fuel stop. The car behind him swerved to avoid the crash, and the car behind that guy just so happened to be trying to overtake them, and while driving over 150 miles an hour, hit the back of the swerving car and flew into the air, then colliding with the barrier in such a way that it started flipping, and pieces started to fly off of it into the crowd. At 150 miles an hour, the heavy engine rammed through people like a wrecking ball. Meanwhile, the hood flying like a frisbee decapitated multiple people. After all was said and done, there were 84 deaths and 120 injured, but the gruesome way the events played out led to racing being banned in France. And number 1, the Lima riot in 1964, also known as the world's worst stadium disaster, and for good reason, as the referee's call during an Argentina-Peru soccer match caused the fans to go crazy. One fan, since called La Mamba, ran into the field to argue with the referees, but the police got involved and were unusually cruel, bringing out the police dogs, kicking, and beating him with their batons. These violent actions turned the crowd into an ordinary shouting sports mob to rioters. People then rushed onto the field as the refs and players escaped, but the crowd versus police riot had just started. The crowd threw bricks while the police threw tear gas. Weirdly enough, it wasn't any of these rioters that were in the most danger, but the ones rushing out of the stadium to avoid the clash. Exits were blocked off during the game, so the first people to leave were met with metal gates. More and more people pushed, not knowing these gates were closed, and the pressure was so great in fact, the gates ended up bursting open after a while. But it was a while, as people were stuck for hours in the dead bodies, and everyone who did die did so in the tunnels, and not in the riot-on field. 328 people were crushed and stomped to death, and another 500 were injured. So many people were dead, a temporary morgue was set up, and families searched through the dead bodies to see if their loved ones were amongst the worst off. The riot took to the streets for another 15 hours, where stores were looted, cars were set on fire, and 2 police officers were killed, causing the worst stadium disaster to ever happen, and hopefully will ever happen.
If you say this out loud, you will die. Okay, so there's this cursed Japanese poem called Tomino's Hell. And people believe if you say it out loud, you will die or be cursed for the rest of your life. One of these deaths was Shuji Terarama, who made a movie off this poem. And exactly 1 week after the movie was released, he suddenly just dropped dead. Another time, this young college girl was there by her friends to say the poem out loud. And she did, and 1 week later, she suddenly just dropped dead. I'm not even going to put the poem on screen, because even if you read it in your head, it could still work. This is something you should never read or look up, so whatever you do, do not look up Tomino's Hell and read it, because it could very well be the last thing you ever do.
Curdling facts that you wish you never knew. Part 24. There's been multiple cases of people actually being eaten alive by an escalator. If you like to eat cereal, there's a 21 to 38% chance that you're also eating an Icarus mite. Supposedly, if you have Sanpaku eyes, meaning that there's white below your iris, it actually means that you're supposed to die young. Every time you feel very aggressive, your brain is set to kill for a few seconds. So in that 1 second, you could kill a human being. When getting laser eye surgery, you can actually smell the parts of your eyes being shaved down by the lasers. If you're a male, after you die, your loved ones can have a doctor electrocute your prostate, forcing you to ejaculate for your sperm. Female dragonflies often fake their own death to prevent rape. If you ever get burned by electricity, it will leave burn marks shaped like lightning on your skin. Many pets actually die because their owner dies unexpectedly and nobody comes in to check in on them in time.
Hey, look, a pizza. You gotta let him into your house now.
Tupac is still alive. For the longest time, Tupac was thought to have died in a drive-by shooting. However, many people still believe that he is alive. When he was alive, Tupac was obsessed with the idea of Machiavelli. Machiavelli was a famous artist that was known for faking his own death. The period before his death, Tupac was always prepared, wearing bulletproof vest and protecting himself. It was alleged that Tupac's team got news of a plan to execute him. So in order to protect himself, he faked his own death. Many people claim that Tupac was hiding in plain sight, seeing as a Kill the MC bears many similarities to Tupac, and has even gone on record saying that he is Tupac. However, we will never know if.
These are videos humans were never meant to see, part 21. Okay, so we all know how scary and powerful water could be, especially when a tsunami takes place. Water is the strongest element, and the video I'm about to show you proves it again. This is raw footage from a tsunami in Palu in 2018, and it just shows how powerful water is.
Yep, we get it. Waterful. Water is powerful. Not what I wanted to click on, but thank you. There. Let me reload. Just a sec, guys. I deeply apologize right now. I'm currently playing Mario Run. It's very fun. Very addicting as well.
From cold case mysteries to extreme natural disasters caught on tape, today we are going to be looking at some dark and disturbing videos that came straight from America. In our number 10 spot today, we have the Raymond Cabelfin Jr. video. In 2017, Raymond and his friends were having a nice day at the Lake Clementine Trail in Auburn, Sacramento. When they went to the lake, a few of the friends decided to jump in to cool off. One friend went into the water first and stayed closer to the rocks, but when Raymond went in, he went into the water quite a bit further.
Go for it, get your leg up! 2, 1! Hurry, go!
At first, Raymond's friends don't even realize exactly what is happening, but Raymond ended up being caught in the current, which was much too strong for him to swim against. This ended up being the last time Raymond was seen alive, and a search was launched to try and find him. Eventually, his body was found, but Raymond had unfortunately passed away. This video definitely serves as a reminder of how quickly things can change in an instant. I am definitely sending a lot of positive thoughts to Raymond's family and friends, as this could not have been an easy thing to experience. In our number 9 spot today, we have 112 Dirtbag. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up if you're enjoying the video so far, because it really helps us out. This one is related to a person I've talked about on another video named Maura Murray. Maura went missing on February 9th, 2004 under extremely suspicious circumstances. She was last seen after a car accident on Route 112. Her father has often called whoever took her a dirtbag, which seems like a pretty fair and accurate.
Oh, I'm not alone. I've got you, chat. My syndicate.
What the fuck? You good, dude? What are you doing?
Or he's mentally ill. Wait, what is he eating? That don't look like no horse. Definitely a deer. Definitely. Dogs are just weird like that. Especially pitties. That's not a skinwalker, that's just a pit bull. Toddler eating doggo. Eat the toddlers. That is a gnome. Now just quickly throw your elbow back. Just wham! Goat man? Yeah, his mom was up to stuff with a goat. His mom got up to business with that goat.
This is a really timely story, and maybe the spookiest place in the country or even the world.
Skinwalkers take the shape of anything, and that thing has not ran off yet, dude.
It's alright.
Yep. 15 generations, indigenous tribes, including the Utes, have referred to this sandstone ridge as being in the path of the Skinwalker.
Residents there say they've heard unusual animal sounds at night, and several ATV riders say they've seen unusual-looking creatures in the distance.
This is so crazy! You're literally hunting for Skinwalkers.
Skinwalker, a malevolent spirit, a shapeshifter. It easily ranks as the most intensely studied paranormal hotspot in history.
Bro, if a skinwalker can transform into an animal, couldn't it Couldn't it? Like, it can transform between animal and human. It could technically be a cat girl. It could technically be a cat girl. It could. I find that really funny for some reason, even though it's not.
Whoa, whoa. Are you okay? Dude, are you okay? No, dude, that came from above. That came from right above. It threw something down. I'm not kidding you guys.
This is not the first time there have been reports of an unusual creature in the woods. In fact, about a decade ago, it brought a lot of equipment trying to get a picture.
Something strange. There's some knocking going on. We hear some screeches. They're not dogs. They're not coyotes. What could it be, right?
Kid.
Guys, we're literally getting hunted down by a skinwalker right now.
Just, that one kid who likes to screech. I don't know, but I'm getting my my M14. Why do I hear boss music? That was the last thoughts of that guy. Yeah, definitely. I'm just here to debunk all this and make it not scary. Yes, bears are actually known to walk on their hind legs like that. That is not a skinwalker, that is just a regular, everyday bear. Well, not really every day.
Yeah, bro. I think there's something out there.
Me and the boys hunting for skinwalkers. Probably some circus thing. Well, I cannot answer your questions, but I know what to do there. Grab an M14 or an M1911. Just any gun, really. But I'd prefer an M14, because, it's a rifle. You can stand far away from that thing. Let me at him! I'm gonna fight him. Let me turn my face cam back on.
This is how you spot a skinwalker. On January of this year, a creator by the name Donnie Donahue uploaded a video titled Skinwalker Sighting in Abandoned Mine. In the video, Danny hears an unnerving sound coming from the cave.
What the fuck is that?
Creepy enough, the cave is sealed shut, like it's keeping something locked away.
Did we go up there? I don't hear it anymore. I'll be doing this.
As Danny gets closer, what he captures will haunt him forever. Take a look.
I don't see anything.
See if we can make a move, if it's some kind of supernatural entity. It's not moving. Maybe it's a tree trunk. I don't know.
What you do is you grab a
Alright.
gun.
So I
and
came
you're
up
out.
to it, and where I recorded it, it was exactly right over there. I came up, and I don't know. It doesn't look like what we were just looking at, honestly. But
Right. Let me find an actually scary video. So I will be right back. I just need to play with this. I just need to play with OBS a minute. Let's see if this works. Downloads. Desktop. Okay, whatever. So it's not media source. Maybe. Let's see here. This is fake. Okay, this doesn't work.
Maybe you can tell me different.
This does not work. I was trying to give you guys a jump scare. I was trying to jump scare you guys. Yes, I know I'm rude. Hold on.
Spectrum Business is the no-nonsense way for your business to stay connected. Get fast, reliable internet speeds. Get Spectrum Business Connect for calls, text, and
You had a heart attack? No, don't have a heart attack on my stream. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Oh, aren't you though? Okay, go to Gmail. Oh, I got a free hat for verifying on Roblox. Be a dad, get milk. Don't worry about it. Alright, well, I'm gonna end the stream here. Let's do a proper outro where you can see me. Yes. I'm gonna end the stream. That's what I'm gonna do. Scariest thing in this video yet, ending the stream. Anyway, that's it for this stream. Hope you enjoyed the jump scare. Because there was like nothing scary in this video at all. And I'll see you in the next video or stream. Remember, you're legally required to subscribe to me. Stay